I just wanna ride my bike. Yeah, I'm just sick of always watching the news. I just wanna go outside. Yeah, spend a weekend way up top with a view.
So, what, like your experience? So, like, how far back does your beer like lineage go back? Like,
Yeah.
if you want to talk about, yeah, the history of Jake Peales Beer or Peales Beer, yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. My name is Jake Piel. I have quite the history with beer, both in my family and personally in my own life. So yeah, let's get to it. What do you wanna ask me, Albert? Well, the early 1800s, my family kind of came into America as immigrants from Europe, and they started this brewery called Peales Beer. It over time it became very big, larger and larger, and eventually they started running these ads that were very, very popular, probably more popular than the beer itself. They were very comedic. They were probably one of the first comedic advertising campaigns back in the day.
Yeah.
And this brewery went through many struggles and barriers,
really,
family issues,
so let's
prohibition.
About the prohibition
But they made it out by the end, only to be bought up
and ended in
by bigger corporations, bigger beer corporations.
Banned
all these breweries started buying up other breweries, and was the age of beer conglomeration.
Sell during Prohibition because they couldn't sell beer.
And that's where we are today. Actually, a lot of breweries are owned by the larger beer industries. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people did that. Or the low alcohol beer too. It's like a malt milk or malt. It was just like a malty drink. Did they sell any of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, beer's a really old drink, you know? Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. I think they had a restaurant around that time, so they were probably selling the food. I think they were also making beer underground as well and selling it, out the back.
In the show notes as well.
Yeah.
That's cool. So that is your family's beer, right?
Oh yeah. Right. Probably. They probably did. Yeah. I mean, it is.
Oh, yeah.
There is a book about my family's history with beer and the conglomeration of beer. It's called Beer of Broadway Fame.
Dang, that's
by
cool.
Alfred McCoy.
Wow. Have you visited
Yeah.
the East Coast and tried some of the beer, or?
It was,
I
yeah.
think you
It's
have
actually
to.
still around
Yeah, I
today.
think that's the next
It's
step
been
for you.
sold and bought several times.
Yeah, that's interesting. Dang.
One of the previous owners was Pabst,
Yeah,
and
beer's
they
a
sold
super
it
old
and
drink,
discontinued the beer.
but it's been brewed for
I
like
think in
thousands of years, and
2014, and
it's still a
then
very
Peales
popular
Beer
drink
was
today,
revived
which is it like
in
really like
2018
is
on
such a
the East
durable
Coast,
like item, you know.
and now there's a very small operation on the East Coast of Peales Beer. No, I have not.
Yeah,
I'd love to. That'd be great. Yeah,
yeah, it's all sciencey and like it's a numbers game and it's crazy. That's so interesting, man. Like how beer has evolved. Um, yeah. So
yeah, and especially in today's world where we're refining the science behind beer to such this point where it's like we're hooking up AI technology to pinpoint the exact flavor that you want the beer to come out to be before you even
yeah,
make the beer. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. It was actually like
yeah,
huge because when all those big
yeah.
beer
And actually,
companies like Anheuser-Busch
one of
and
the
stuff
founders
and Coors
of
and
Peel's
Miller,
Beer,
uh,
Michael,
they kept
he
acquiring
was
like
an
all these
engineer, I think.
like all
And
of
so
the
he was all
refrigeration
about
and
the cooling
um,
system for beer.
yeah, like
And
refrigeration, all this
back in
tech
that day,
that all the little guys
there
couldn't
was
compete with,
refrigeration.
and they could create
Refrigeration just
like
came about.
massive quantities.
So this was
So
revolutionary for beer.
yeah, it's
I
super
mean, the way you
crazy,
could
man.
store it and the way you make it itself. Uh, so that just refrigeration in itself propelled beer. To
Yeah,
this
like
point.
you said earlier, the illusion of choice. Um, there's just like a handful of big like beer conglomerate companies that just like to purchase a bunch of these tiny
Albert.
little like
Uh-oh.
craft beer brands. So that's good. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Just big beer taking up smaller beer companies.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So what else? What else is there? Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It was like that was like the sad part
well, I
about
think
like the big beer companies. It
different
was
people
kind
do
of
it for
like an
different
accounting game
reasons.
that they were playing.
Selling their
They were just fighting
breweries.
for market share,
Um,
you know.
but these bigger
So the
beer
big
industries,
four,
those major
they
players,
control roughly about
they're just
79%
soaking up
of the
what's coming out
111.4
of people's minds.
or
All these businesses, the
111.4
craft beer
billion dollar
industry,
U.S.
um,
beer market. So
these big
they're super powerful,
conglomerates are
man.
just buying them up because they want the larger
And
slice of the pie. They want to keep it
yeah,
under
it's just
control.
super crazy, super
Uh,
interesting.
and yeah,
Um,
they want to maintain their
yeah, these
status quo.
mergers.
Like,
And do you think that like affects like the big guys from not being as creative, or do you think that's like a positive for
yeah,
the little guys because their beers are really
yeah.
creative, unique?
Yeah.
Hmm. Or Heineken
Well,
bought up. Yeah, Heineken bought up Lagunitas. Yeah.
well, I think it hurts the little guys more, um, just because they can't get that much exposure that the bigger guys can do. Although that being said, there are these larger industries do only maintain a certain focal point for some of their beers. Like they sell beers in Europe that they don't sell here. Um,
Yeah.
but there's like Lagunitas, for example.
Oh, that's true.
Heineken bought
And then
up
he later sold
Lagunitas.
like the second
They
half
only bought up
to
half of
Heineken
Lagunitas
later.
at first, or Heineken. Yes, that's,
Yeah.
yeah. So Heineken bought up Lagunitas, but they only bought up half of Lagunitas
Yeah. Get
first.
the
Um,
was seen.
and the main reason
Huh.
I
That's a
think
cool
Tony
way of thinking
Magee
about it.
sold it in the first
Because
place
like most
was
people are
because he
like, oh, he
wanted
just
to
sold
share
out for
his
the
beer.
money. But he's
So the
like,
only way to
Tony
really
was like,
distribute
oh,
all of his
I
beer
just really think
was
I have really
to,
good beer, and I think more
sell a
people should
portion of
enjoy it.
it
So
to Heineken,
that's a cool way to. Yeah,
um,
that is
so
true.
they can have that distribution system.
You said you read a book on Tony Magee, right? And Lagunitas. What did you? Yeah.
Yeah, and then you better sold
What
the
did you
rest, right?
like? What was like an
Which I
interesting,
mean, I
some
think was
interesting
a
facts
fairly
that
smart move. Try to make the
you like
transition nice and
took away
smooth.
from that book?
Making sure his label. Yeah, yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. And I mean, you got to retire sometime. That's right. So you want to start a brewery?
Yeah, and like the fonts and the artwork that goes on to. I think he was the designer for
Um,
all of the
well, Tony Magee
labels
started off
and the
um,
fonts.
with just
Yeah,
a
he's a
little brew
genius on
kit
that
that he
too.
got.
Like the
I think
dog,
it
and
was for Christmas from his
it's just
brother.
beautifully like packaged.
Um, and he started off small, real small. Um, and he really liked it, and then he grew bigger and bigger. What was it? I think
Yeah.
he was working for like the newspaper at the time,
Yeah.
I think. So he's really into imaging and like the selling, the sales part of products.
Yeah, it was around it was in the
Yeah,
Bay.
I would not doubt that. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
He still does that
it,
today because I was on the
yeah, I think
Lagunitas
that's what
website,
makes them stand
and this
out a
was like in
lot.
Petaluma. They were gonna
As
have
a craft brewery, they're
they
really
had
connecting with
Fiddler
people on a
that's coming up.
personal
I think it's
level
like this
with their
weekend
little
actually.
messages that they have
They're gonna
around
have
the rim of the
Fiddler. They
bottle.
have the
Uh,
OCs. So it's just like a lot of rock and roll like culture
um,
still like on with that
yeah,
beer, which is super cool.
he um, yeah, he used to throw these big old parties down the streets at his old facility. I think it was in Marin. Yeah, yeah, his first location. Um,
Hmm.